Hi guys, my name's Chan Warris. I'm a composer in the independent film industry, and today I want to talk to you very briefly about how you can get your music into a film. Now, I'm not talking any big Hollywood budget pictures because I've not had any of my music in anything like that. However, I have had my music in several different independent films over the years, so I do have a bit of experience in regards to these. Now, I mainly started off by producing an independent film with an American guy called Chris, and I upfronted $200 and I got in contact with the people and said, hey, could you put some of my music into this project? And at the time I wasn't very experienced, so I only got a couple of pieces in out of all of the stuff which I actually sent them. However, it was one way of getting my foot in the door. By being a producer, I had the right to kind of alter the way that the production was going. But they actually liked the music, and that was good because I got called back and I ended up doing several more films for Chris over the years, which were more sort of classic horror than comedy horror, which is what he was working on. Now, in regards to getting your music into a film, the best way to do it, which I've come across, is to talk to a director, and they're much more likely to listen to you if you've done music for different films or for shorts. However, if you're doing it for the first time, you can send them a big email with a lot of information on who you are. You can just copy and paste it from a notepad document. You know, there's no shame in doing that. Write up a little bit about who you are, and very close to the top so that they don't have to wade through loads and loads of work. Have one or two samples of music, preferably which are really different from each other, so that they can tell that you've got a range and that you're adaptable, and that they can kind of use you like a piece of putty that they can beat into shape. Because a lot of people will want you to create a specific style of soundtrack. I mean, I've very rarely been allowed to create the kind of music which I would want to, because a lot of directors see it as being very unfitting. But, you know, the thing is, you are working for them at that point, and that is how it works. So once you've sent them a big CV of your who you are, your experience, what instruments you play, and you've sent them a little bit of work, they might get back to you, and they probably won't, but you've got to be prepared for people to say, no, sorry, we're not interested, time and time again. I mean, after I did my music for the first film, it took me about 15 tries of contacting different directors, and I'd watched loads and loads of films and found many independent directors that I really liked, and I was getting in contact with all of them. You know, sometimes you contact them via Facebook where you can find them. A lot of directors use social networking sites in order to get involved and find actors, that sort of thing. And you can contact them via these social networking sites. A lot of them have their own web pages, and you can go onto their web pages and contact them directly. And a large percentage of them will actually listen to your work. Some of them will say, nah, we're not interested. Some of them won't get back to you. The ones which don't get back to you, it's always good to send them another letter in case they're really busy and they've just, you know, glazed over it and not thought it through. It's always good to find out about that. Some of them will think, right, I can't use this guy for this project. I've actually had one case of this, but I can use him for this other project. So I got used for another project which came after an original project, which I was really proud of, being able to be thought of in that way, that they would come back to me. The whole thing is it's all about finding a director, and that means watching a lot of good independent films. You'll be watching a lot of bad independent films as well, and sometimes it's good to be involved in doing music for a bad film, because it gets your foot in the door. That's point number one. And point number two, a large proportion of what makes a film good is the music, the soundtrack which goes with it. I mean, if you can get emotion out of a scene when there was no emotion there with a soundtrack, you can create a film that was awful and you can turn it into a film that was really good. You can completely transform the shape of a film. So in a way, you've got to work your very hardest to create something that is beautiful and that you can send off. Now, contacting directors is not necessarily easy, because they're involved in all the different aspects of the production. Like they're involved in just about everything, and they've got so much work to do. So a lot of the time, if they're actually working on a project, they'll be far too busy to speak to you, which is why you'd contact them again. However, in terms of producers, being a producer, sometimes people are active producers, and they're right there on the set with everyone else doing the makeup and everything, because they're so involved in everything. But producers, some of them are very, very relaxed and in the background, and they might listen to your work if a director doesn't. So you can always, talk to the producers as well and say, hey, are you interested in this? Because then they could show it to the director, who could say, yes, this is good, this would work with this scene. So it's all about finding people and contacting them. And there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of independent films on the internet. There's people all over YouTube that create their own independent films. It's all about finding them. And apart from that, you can go through Facebook. There are tons and tons of different groups: filmmakers, independent film genre. There are literally hundreds of thousands of groups out there, all over social networking sites. And if you feel a little bit shy about saying hi to a director and being all personal with them, you can always post a post with your latest song or your latest track that you've worked on, and say, this is a track written by me, does anyone need a film composer? I do this a lot. I constantly spam up Facebook and say, hey, does anyone need music doing for their films? And a lot of the time people come to me. Now, at the end of the day, having experience is always good. So if you find local groups which make films, and there will probably be local groups, in any city that you're in, or any big town, there's probably a group that will make their own films. And what you can do is you can contact them and say, hi, I'd like to do music for this. You can also contact different groups, like, for example, if you contact, say, universities, find film students that need music. You can also contact pretty much anybody and say, do you need music? And you'll get a response eventually. It could take you years to get your first response, but once you get one, it starts rolling in, and then you just get more and more work the more you churn out. Occasionally people will get to a point where they will contact you and say, I want you to do the music for this. I really love the music that you did for this thing. And you're like, oh my God, get away from me, just take my money. And it's all really, really good. But, starting out is hard, and you've just got to find the directors, contact them, and whine at them until they listen to you. And it's a very, very good tactic, because they will listen to you and they will hear you out. And if you're offering your services for free, which I did at the start, I still offer my services for free if it's a worthy cause, you will be getting money coming in eventually if you want that. Alternatively, if you don't want that, I only need it to live. That's the only reason I do it. Say, can I have some money for this because, the rent is coming up? But at the end of the day, the world is your oyster, and it's all about just finding the people. And I would say, go onto Facebook, sign up to every single film group that you can find, and just post a message saying, I'm a composer, I create music, I can create all of this stuff if you want me to. And eventually someone will come across that and say, yes, I'd like to hear some of the stuff you've created. Have you done anything like this? Of course, when you end up making music for people, they will be upset with you occasionally if you do the wrong thing, or you beat the project into the wrong shape, and you give them a hammer instead of an axe. But the fact of the matter is, you can change the music, and all you've got to do is, every single time someone is unhappy with your music, just say, okay, I see what you mean by being unhappy with it. Show me something closer to what you want. And they will send you the film with clips of sound, and you can work from there. Now, this is where it gets kind of complicated, because Occasionally people will say, no, not interested, I'm replacing you, getting a new composer. They won't listen and you will just get kicked off the ladder. But that's not a problem, because at the end of the day you've created more music, you can always use that in things in the future, which is good. Yeah, it can get quite mean at times, so you've got to be prepared to not have any of your music in a film. I've written music occasionally for films, and at the end of the day they haven't even told me and they've replaced me. It's always good for them to send you the original scene that they want you to score, so that you're able to work with that and create music which is fitting for that. And if they send you another copy of the score with like their own music which they would like, for example from a big film, and they say, right, we want you to do this score and come up with something like the score for On Her Majesty's Secret Service for this, and you can say, alright, how can I find this score which they've already got, and how can I make it sound good in the same way, but make it sound like its own original score? Because you're not copying, what you're doing is you're creating something completely new, something completely original. And once you've got the hang of that, you know, you're on your way. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful, and take care and